Hi everyone, welcome to Chalchitra Talks. I'm Vaani, and this week I want to recommend to you two short stories. The first one is a short story that Weber and I have actually picked up already in one of our live reading sessions. So when we started the book reading club, it was my turn to pick up a short story in one of the initial episodes or live streams. And I picked this one up. And the reason why I'm recommending this again is because I think we never did justice to it. Although, yes, we had a good, healthy debate on live stream, but I just feel I wish we could have discussed it further, which never happened because the story was too long for a live stream. So, the title of the story is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula Guin. And the reason why I'm recommending this is because it changed the way I look at the transition of teenage years into adulthood, because you are all of a sudden held responsible for your happiness. Now, the plot of the story is very easy. It's not at all complex. There's just one catch though. So there is a city of Omelas, which you might say the utopian city of everyone's dreams. And there are people who live in the city, of course, and all of them are extremely happy, content. They have all the luxuries that they could ask for. So everyone is living this abundant life. But the happiness of the city depends on the suffering of one child. That child is locked in a dungeon and tortured. And as long as he's suffering, the city will remain happy. The catch is there's always just one child. In the life of all the citizens of the city, there comes a particular time when they realize this fact, and everyone has different reactions. There is one category of people that actually decide to stay indifferent towards this suffering of the child and go on to live a happy, abundant life full of luxuries and happiness. While there is another set of people who decide to walk away because they do not want to be held responsible for the suffering of this child. Now, of course, story में और भी बहुत कुछ होता है, but majorly when I finished reading it, I was left with two questions. One, how do you preserve your innocence? And two, what would I do in a situation like this? The first question, how do you preserve your innocence? Do you stay indifferent, but then you've already seen the suffering, and if you decide to stay indifferent, there's no way of preserving innocence. But if you decide to walk away, you've already been corrupted by the injustices of this world. And the second question, what would I do in a situation like this? I decided I would walk away, and I remember it sparked a debate on the live stream. But I realized everyone has such different answers to this. And rightly so, because we as people cannot run into the world and save every single person that we see is suffering. And we have an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong, and how we choose to ignore or preserve our morals is exactly up to us. But what would you do if you are just alone? And this question just sends you into that existential crisis. And I feel it's very much relevant to our times. The second story that I want to recommend to you is actually titled Remember the Roses, and it's by Avery Taylor. The reason why I'm recommending this is because it changed the way I looked at love and historical fictions, and the way you can find inspiration in any text that is available to you. Remember the Roses was something that was prescribed to us in one of the books that were in our syllabus, but the teacher very smoothly ignored the short story. But me being myself, I picked it up anyway. And it absolutely changed the way I looked at any form of literature that has ever existed. And I realized that anything could be a form of inspiration if you really want to write. So the short story is set in World War II. If you remember your history right, there were Allied powers and there were Axis powers. Allied powers were the Great Britain, France until it got occupied by Germany, and then there were the Soviet Union, and then there was USA and China. The Axis powers were mostly German-occupied nations. And there were multiple resistance across Europe formed by people. So one of them was Polish resistance, which I discussed in one of the previous episodes. I think it was Nothing Important Ever Dies, where I spoke about Polish resistance. So something similar to that was happening in France as well. And now one of the members of the French resistance is captured by the German forces, and this English officer is sent to France to save this person and bring him back. His name is Robert, and he cannot find his way out, and he's almost captured by the Nazis. But he's helped by this young girl. I think her name was Jihan. I'm really sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. He's saved by this girl, and she shows him around. And when he comes back to file a report, nobody believes him, including the person he has just rescued. And he says, this report that you've submitted is factually incorrect. And now he doesn't realize what is happening. And then it hits him that perhaps this Jihan that he had met was the Joan of Arc, which, if you remember your history right again, fought for France in 1429. The reason why it is Remember the Roses is an absolutely different story, and that is why you should read this. But I will jump to why I feel this book changed the course of literature for me. Because there are two different plots. There is World War II that's happening, and there is this Joan of Arc who fought for France in 1429. And Avery Taylor mixed the two plots and just built something that was entirely different. Now, around this time, a friend and I, because we were kids, we started writing these short stories, even though she was much better than I am at all this. But we would take up the randomest pieces of literature, say Cinderella, and we would combine it with the French Revolution, and it would build something that was entirely different. Of course, the way we wrote was pretty mediocre, but it just showed how you can pick up the most random things in life and form something entirely different and beautiful. The reason why this short story is titled Remember the Roses is another story, and that is one of the many reasons why it is one of my absolute favorite reads of all times. So these two were my recommendations for this week, and if you guys pick it up, I think it will be less than 30-minute read if you combine both of them. So they are pretty small reads, and if you actually end up reading them, please let me know how you find them, and it would make me really happy. You can write to me on vaani@chalchitratalks.com, or you can also mention it in the comments how you felt about these short stories. And before I go, I also want to tell you that if you like our work, you can contribute to us on Patreon and YouTube community. We have different categories for our patrons: Goodfellas, Gladiators, and Godfathers. Godfathers being at the top. And if you join, there'll be different perks that come with each category. You can participate in the weekly quizzes that happen on YouTube channel, or you can be a part of our dedicated WhatsApp groups to books, music, and films. And quite recently, we added this perk to our Godfather category, where Vaibhav and I will actually send you handwritten notes and personalized recommendations. So do support us if you like our work. It will mean a lot to the entire team. And I will be back again with another recommendation for you next week.